they're going to continue getting warmer, both in the top layer and in the deeper waters. Even if we stopped right this second adding greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, the oceans will still continue to warm a while before they're able to stabilize. They've been taking so much of our waste out of the atmosphere. Since the Industrial Revolution, the ocean has absorbed 150 billion tons of carbon dioxide. However, this great service, which has substantially slowed our global warming, it's been accomplished at a really great cost, right? The ocean is hurting. The trend in ocean acidification, as it takes on more carbon dioxide, it gets more acidic, and that's changing all of the life, particularly coral reefs and all of the life that lives there. So I'd like you to watch now this short video. There's a whole series of these videos that I highly recommend. They're very powerful in a very short period of time. You can get a lot, so check this out. Nature doesn't need people. People need nature. Nature doesn't need people. People need nature. Take a moment and talk to your partner, your neighbors about that. What do you think? Any thoughts to share about that? Coming.
Hi.
Hi.
I see your point, but I feel like throughout this class, like a lot of the stuff that we've been stressing is that like the world and the earth is symbiotic and like we have a mutualistic relationship with nature. And like while my partners and I were like talking about how like, yeah, the ocean may not need us and like the world's gonna be here way after we're gone and the world's been here way before we were here. It may not need us, but I like to think that we, my friend was saying that like we control some populations, like white-tailed deer would be everywhere if it weren't for like hunting and stuff like that. And there are things that would be different with the world, so I think that the world can benefit from us being here, So I don't necessarily agree with the fact that nature doesn't need us, but I guess I can say that nature can appreciate us.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you. It's food for thought, I suppose. So as the oceans are warming, As the oceans are warming, Antarctica is melting from beneath. So, I can't seem to show you that, but Antarctica holds 60% of the planet's fresh water locked into its massive ice sheet. Ocean waters are melting the undersides, because it's warm, that water is warmer now underneath, and so it's melting Antarctica from below. The ice shelves are responsible for most of the continent's ice shelf mass loss, is what NASA has actually discovered. So that's where a significant part of that water is coming from, the rise of the oceans. So, hey Ben, do you have a recommendation about how I might make this work again? Thank you for working on it. Oh, and there's the Arctic. Fantastic. Satellites have provided a reliable tool for continuously monitoring changes in the Arctic ice. They've been doing that since 1979, and the Arctic ice cap melts to what scientists call its minimum, its ice minimum, before colder weather starts to build the ice back up. So the ice, this was from last year, it hit its minimum on September 18th before it started to increase again. And so it's at the level where it was the 10th lowest ever last year, and the other 10 years were just preceding that. So it's also on the decrease, which is what's making all of this global sea level rise happen. So we've talked about, or you may have heard about, how the coastal areas are going to be flooding. The rate in the last 10 years of sea level rise has doubled in that of the last century. So Elizabeth Wheaton, she's the Director of Environment and Sustainability for Miami Beach. She says there's so much misinformation about what's happening. That's what breeds the skepticism. It's so important as a region that we go beyond the conversation of if it's happening to how, as a region, we need to be preparing. Then she says flatly, the sea levels are rising. Some of you may have even seen this in the places where you visit over the course of your summers. Beaches are changing. There are places that are experiencing this extreme tumult. Millions of people have been displaced by catastrophic weather disasters each year. And sometimes we think about that as far away, but then in our country, wildfires and hurricanes over the last couple of years have displaced more people than ever. So as the climate change worsens, the storms and the droughts, climate scientists and migration experts expect the number of climate refugees, that's really a thing, escaping from the local climate. That's going to change. More and more people are going to need to escape from their homes because of climate. The opposite then is happening as well, desertification. This is Burkina Faso, one of the countries most severely affected by desertification. It's the process that affects the Earth's surface where the biosphere, the top layer, the soil has disappeared, leading to degradation and loss of nutrients, and therefore the land isn't fertile. They can't grow stuff on this hard-packed surface. Soil salinity, the salt in the soil, continues to rise. And so that increases that erosive phenomenon. Nothing, very few plants grow in salty soil. Increases landslides. So we've looked at the graphs of the temperature increase, the Arctic ice decrease, the sea level rise, the increasing use of fossil fuels, climate chaos. It's all tied together. I used to say that Americans weren't under as much pressure as other countries until recently with the amount of wildfire and hurricanes. So it's shifting, it's changing. Things are changing that we can't explain. And so I'd love for you to really take in this really important piece of art put together by these two women. One of them from the Marshall Islands, the one on the left, from the Marshall Islands, so near the equator, to Greenland, where the woman on the right is from. And they together embarked with a small film crew to a remote place in Greenland, where they recited this poem, how climate change is directly affecting their lives. So take this in and think about their perspective, their lives, their well-being as you watch.
Sister of ice and snow, I'm coming to you from the land of my ancestors, from atolls, sunken volcanoes, undersea descent of sleeping giants.
Sister of ocean and sand, I welcome you to the land of my ancestors, to the land where they sacrificed their lives to make mine possible, to the land of survivors.
I'm coming to you from the land my ancestors chose, Island, Marshall Islands, a country more sea than land.
I welcome you to Greenland, the biggest island on earth.
With me I bring these shells that I picked from the shores of Bikini Atoll and Ruined Dome.
In my hand I hold these rocks, picked from the shores of Nuuk, the foundation of the land I call my home.
With these shells I bring with me a story of long ago. Two sisters frozen in time on the island of Wuyang. One magically turned to stone, the other who chose that life to be rooted by her sister's side. To this day, the two sisters can be seen by the edge of the reef, a lesson in permanence.
With these rocks I bring a story told countless times, a story about Sister Ma'amna, mother of the sea, who lives in a cave at the bottom of the ocean. This is a story about the guardian of the sea. She sees the greed in our hearts, the disrespect in our eyes. Every whale, every stream, every iceberg are her children. When we disrespect them, she gives us what we deserve, a lesson in respect. Do we deserve the melting ice, the hungry polar bears coming to our islands, or the colossal icebergs hitting these waters with rage?
ocean rises, forcing us to imagine turning ourselves to stone.
Can you see a glacier's grown with the weight of the world's heat? I wait for you, here on the land of my ancestors, heart heavy with a continuous thirst for solutions. And so watch this land change while the world remains silent.
Sister of ice and snow, I come to you now in grief.
Mourning landscapes that are always forced to change. First, from wars inflicted on us,
Then through nuclear waste dumped in our waters.
on our ice,
And now,
this. Sister of ocean and sand, I offer you these rocks, the foundation of my home. May the same unshakable foundation connect us, make us stronger than these colonizing monsters that still to this day devour our lives. The very same beasts that now decide who should live,
who should die? Sister of ice and snow, I offer you these shells and the story of the two sisters as testament, as declaration that despite what we are told, we will not leave. We will choose stone. We will choose to be rooted to this reef forever. From these islands,
we ask for solutions.
from these islands,
We ask, we demand that the world see beyond
ACs, SUVs, the pre-packaged convenience, their oil slick dreams.
beyond the belief that tomorrow will never happen, that this is merely an inconvenient truth.
Let me bring my hope to yours.
Let's watch as Miami, New York, Shanghai, Amsterdam, London, Rio de Janeiro, and Osaka try to breathe underwater. You think you have decades before your home fall beneath tides?
We have years, we have months before you sacrifice us again, before you watch from your TV screens and computer screens to see if we will still be breathing while you do nothing.
My sister, I offer you these rocks as a reminder that our lives matter more than their power. That life in our form demands the same respect we all give to money.
That these issues will affect each and every one of us. None of us is immune.
And that each and every one of us has to decide if we will rise.
So how, isn't that stunning? So how will we rise? What blocks us from feeling these hard things? What blocks us from acting and making change? What can we do? The problem is so big and I feel so small. To act requires that I stop and I pay attention and then I feel something and then I make a choice to make action. So in light of these huge social and environmental problems that are now confronting us, many people feel overwhelmed and powerless. It seems as though we've been conditioned to think that there's nothing that we can do. It's called learned helplessness. There was a research experiment done with dogs in the 1960s that if a dog would receive a shock and then if it couldn't get out, it would just take it. It was learned helplessness. But if it could figure out that it could escape, there's a different way. So the dogs unlearned the behavior of not moving from the shock. They realized that there was a different way. So we too know now that we can unlearn. We can unlearn our helplessness. We're in this place of crisis, and crisis provides danger and opportunity. We have talked about, we have choices. right? We are creative. By being human means we are creative. It's going to take some courage to step up, to feel, and to act. If action is not taken, then we're going to let climate change move ahead and shape our future. The uncertainty of that. So a lot of people have talked about this from a place of fear before. What we have been working through in part 1 of this course is what happens if we love? What happens if we find a place of love and can act for the oceans, for the birds, for the trees, from this place of love? What happens if we aren't afraid to make change, but rather that we are loving the change that we're making? The only thing we have to do to be sure we will leave a ruined world for our children and our grandchildren is to do exactly what we're doing right now. So I encourage you to think about what's your place. Look in your week 8. You're going to find the assignment, your final assignment for the Ecological Identity Project. How do you connect to this place? How do you find that love place where you can make change? Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful spring break.